The massive holographic display flickered with an ominous red glow, casting long shadows across the Galactic Council's central chamber. Representatives from a dozen alien species sat in tense silence, their varied biological forms hunched over intricate communication devices. Captain June Park stood at the center, his human frame seemingly small compared to the towering alien diplomats, yet his presence commanded absolute attention. Outside the chamber's transparent walls, the vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly, punctuated by distant stars that seemed to tremble with an unspoken threat. The void swarm was coming, a cosmic plague that had already consumed 17 star systems in less than 3 standard galactic months. Lieutenant Hana Kim adjusted the holographic projection, her fingers moving with practiced precision. Data streams cascaded around her, revealing the terrifying progress of the approaching alien threat. Each point of light represented a potential target, each cluster a potential extinction event. 43% of our deep space monitoring stations have gone dark, she announced, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. Some species looked ready to flee, others appeared paralyzed by fear. The Xyloxian ambassador, a massive creature with iridescent skin and multiple eyes, spoke first. Its translator device hummed with a mechanical undertone. "We cannot fight this threat. Our defensive capabilities are insufficient." June Park stepped forward. There was something different about humans, a raw determination that seemed alien to the other races. Where others saw inevitable destruction, humans saw a challenge to be solved. "We have options," he said simply. The chamber fell silent. Humans were still relatively new to the Galactic Council, considered young and somewhat unpredictable. Their technological advancement had been rapid, their adaptability legendary, but they had never faced a threat of this magnitude. Hana began displaying a series of complex diagrams. Quantum communication networks, adaptive AI algorithms, modified mining equipment. Each slide revealed a potential weapon against the void swarm. The alien representatives leaned forward, their previous dismissiveness replaced by a cautious curiosity. "The void swarm operates on a collective consciousness," Hana explained. "Every drone is connected, which means every drone is also a potential weakness." Her fingers manipulated the holographic display, showing intricate network connections that began to pulse and change. June watched the alien diplomats. He could see the mix of fear and hope in their multiple eyes. Humans had a reputation for finding solutions where others saw only problems. This moment would define their place in galactic history. The monitoring stations continued to show the void swarm's approach. Massive energy signatures moved like a dark wave through space, consuming everything in its path. Entire civilizations had already been erased, reduced to cosmic dust and forgotten memories. "We need a plan," the Kreltak military advisor muttered, its mechanical translation device clicking between words. June and Hana exchanged a quick glance. They had been preparing for this moment. Months of research, countless simulations, and a willingness to take risks that other species would never consider. "We have a strategy," June said, his voice cutting through the chamber's tension. "But it will require something most of you are not prepared to give: complete commitment." The holographic display zoomed out, showing the entire galactic sector. The void swarm's approach was like a cancer spreading through the cosmic body, consuming everything in its path. But now, something different was happening. A tiny blue indicator, representing human technology and strategy, began to pulse with an intense, almost defiant light. The war room buzzed with nervous energy as June Park laid out the initial plans. Alien representatives watched with a mixture of skepticism and desperate hope. Mining lasers, typically used for resource extraction, now stood as potential weapons. Quantum communication networks that once connected distant colonies would become strategic attack systems. "We're going to fight differently," June explained, pointing to a holographic projection that showed complex interconnected systems. The alien diplomats looked confused. Conventional warfare meant massive battleships, advanced energy weapons, and direct confrontations. What humans were proposing was something entirely different. Hana Kim stepped forward, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface. She showed how standard mining equipment could be modified to create devastating energy pulses. A simple, drilling laser, when recalibrated, could potentially disrupt the Void Swarm's communication networks. The Xyloxian ambassador leaned closer. "This is madness," it muttered, but there was a hint of curiosity in its voice. Humans were known for their ability to improvise, to see solutions where others saw only problems. Outside the war room, preparation was already underway. Entire manufacturing complexes had been converted into weapon production facilities. Ships, that were once designed for peaceful exploration, were being retrofitted with experimental technology. Every resource, every piece of equipment was being reimagined as a potential weapon. June understood something the other species didn't. War wasn't just about strength, it was about adaptability. The human species had survived countless challenges on their home planet. They had transformed harsh environments, overcome incredible obstacles. The Void Swarm was just another challenge to be solved. "Our AI systems will be our primary advantage," Hana explained. She pulled up a complex algorithm that showed how artificial intelligence could predict and counter the Void Swarm's collective movements. Each lost drone would become a source of intelligence, a way to understand and ultimately defeat the enemy. The Kreltak military advisor watched carefully. Its mechanical body hummed with processing power, analyzing every detail of the human strategy. Humans were proposing something revolutionary, a completely adaptive warfare system that could learn and change faster than any known technological network. June walked to a large star map. He pointed to potential engagement zones, showing how human ships would move like a fluid network rather than a traditional military formation. "We don't fight in lines," he explained. "We fight like a living system." Preparation became intense. Scientists worked around the clock, modifying equipment, running simulations, testing impossible scenarios. Manufacturing facilities ran at maximum capacity. Ships were transformed, communication networks were rebuilt, and every piece of technology was seen as a potential weapon. The human strategy was simple but powerful. Turn everything into a potential weapon. Use intelligence and adaptability as the primary defense. Where other species saw limitations, humans saw opportunities. Hana continued to refine the AI systems. Each algorithm became more complex, more adaptive. The quantum communication networks were being transformed into a living, breathing defense system. Information would flow like blood through a body, constantly changing, constantly adapting. "We're not just preparing to fight," June told the alien representatives. "We're preparing to survive." The room fell silent. The alien diplomats realized something fundamental had changed. Humans weren't just another species in the Galactic Council. They were something different, something dangerous. As the final preparations were made, a sense of anticipation filled the war room. The Void Swarm was coming, but for the first time, something was ready to push back. The massive ship hummed with energy as June Park reviewed the final modifications. Mining lasers that once cut through asteroid fields now stood ready to become weapons of incredible power. Around him, technicians moved quickly, their hands dancing across complex interfaces. "We have exactly 36 hours before the Void Swarm reaches our first defensive line," Hana Kim announced, her voice calm despite the enormous pressure. The ship's AI systems were unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. Each algorithm was designed to learn, adapt, and respond faster than any known computational system. Outside the ship's reinforced windows, massive manufacturing complexes worked without pause. Ships that were once peaceful exploration vessels now looked like hunting predators. Every piece of technology had been transformed, reimagined as a potential weapon against the incoming threat. The Void Swarm was not a traditional enemy. It moved like a living organism, consuming entire star systems with ruthless efficiency. Traditional military strategies would fail. Humans understood something fundamental. Survival required total adaptability. June pulled up a holographic projection showing the complex network of potential attack routes. Where other species saw chaos, he saw opportunity. Mining equipment could become precision weapons. Communication networks could become attack systems. Nothing would be wasted. "We're going to turn their strength into our advantage," he explained to the nervous alien technicians monitoring the preparations. Some looked terrified. Others looked curious. Humans moved with a purpose that seemed almost reckless, yet carefully calculated. Hana's AI systems continued to process massive amounts of data. Each simulation showed increasingly complex ways to disrupt the Void Swarm's collective consciousness. The enemy worked like a massive organism, with each drone connected to a central intelligence. Break that connection, and the entire system would collapse. The ship's internal systems began to change. Standard cooling systems were modified to create electromagnetic pulse generators. Navigation computers were transformed into predictive combat algorithms. Even the ship's waste processing systems could potentially become defensive mechanisms. "This is not just a war," June told his team. "This is about proving that adaptation is the most powerful weapon in the universe." Technicians worked in synchronized movements. Some modified laser systems, others recalibrated quantum communication networks. Every second counted. The Void Swarm was approaching, and humanity's survival depended on these final preparations. The alien representatives watched with a mixture of fear and fascination. Humans moved differently. Where others would retreat or prepare traditional defenses, they were creating something entirely new. Each modification was a potential breakthrough, each system a potential game changer. Hana's fingers moved across the quantum interface, creating complex defensive patterns that shifted and changed faster than any known tracking system. The AI was learning, growing, becoming something more than a simple computer program. "We're ready," she said simply. June looked out at the vast emptiness of space. The first wave of the Void Swarm was visible now, a massive dark cloud consuming everything in its path. But something was different this time. Humanity was ready. The unconventional war was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same again. Across the ship, systems powered up. Modified mining lasers hummed with potential energy. Quantum networks began to pulse with complex algorithms. The ship was no longer just a vessel. It was a living weapon. The Void Swarm approached. But for the first time, something was ready to push back. The stars disappeared behind a wall of absolute darkness. The Void Swarm arrived like a living nightmare, consuming everything in its path. Thousands of drone ships moved as a single organism, their black surfaces absorbing all light, all hope. Captain June Park stood on the bridge, his hands steady on the quantum control interface. Lieutenant Hana Kim's fingers moved like lightning, her modified communication systems preparing to strike at the heart of the alien threat. "Incoming," she whispered. The first wave hit like a tsunami of darkness. Conventional weapons would have been useless, but humans were anything but conventional. Modified mining lasers erupted with pinpoint precision, cutting through the Void Swarm's defensive networks with surgical accuracy. Each human ship moved differently. Where traditional military formations would create straight lines, these vessels danced. They twisted, turned, became liquid metal against the dark mass of the enemy. The Void Swarm's collective intelligence struggled to understand this new approach. June watched the battle unfold. Their strategy was simple, but devastating. Every lost drone became a source of information. Every destroyed ship was a lesson learned. The human AI systems processed data faster than the Void Swarm could adapt. "Target their communication nodes," June commanded. Hana's quantum network exploded into action. Electromagnetic pulses designed from repurposed mining equipment sent cascading disruptions through the alien swarm. It was like watching a massive organism suddenly lose its nervous system. The alien diplomats watching the battle transmission couldn't believe their eyes. Humans were fighting differently. They weren't trying to destroy every single drone. They were systematically dismantling the entire system. One by one, Void Swarm communication nodes went dark. Their collective intelligence began to fragment. What seemed like an unstoppable force suddenly looked vulnerable. A Xyloxian communication officer leaned closer to the screen. How are they doing this, he muttered. June knew the answer. Humans didn't fight with traditional weapons. They fought with intelligence, with adaptation, with a willingness to transform anything into a potential weapon. The battle raged for hours. Space became a complex dance of light and darkness. Human ships moved like living things, each vessel connected through a quantum network that learned and changed with every second of the conflict. Hana's AI systems were performing miracles. They predicted void swarm movement patterns before the enemy could even conceive them. Modified communication lasers became weapons. Mining equipment became precision strike systems. We're breaking their network, Hana announced, her voice calm. Despite the intensity of the battle, drone ships began to fall. Not destroyed, but disconnected. Lost. Their collective intelligence was being torn apart by human technology that saw the entire battlefield as a complex, living system. The void. Swarm had consumed 17 star systems before this moment. They had seemed unstoppable. But humans saw the universe differently. Every challenge was an opportunity. Every limitation was a potential strength. As the first engagement came to an end, something changed. The dark mass of the void swarm began to scatter. Their perfect collective movement became chaotic. Individual drones lost connection, lost purpose. June looked at Hana. No words were needed. They had done something impossible. They had survived. They had fought back. And this was just the beginning. Outside the ship's windows, fragments of the void swarm drifted like broken dreams. Space was quiet again. But everyone knew the real battle was just starting. Humanity had shown the galaxy something fundamental. Adaptation was the most powerful weapon in the universe. Weeks turned into months. The battle against the void swarm transformed from a single engagement into a complex, evolving conflict. Captain June Park's strategies had become legendary across the galaxy. Where other species saw defeat, humans saw an opportunity to learn and adapt. Hana Kim's quantum AI systems had become something more than simple computer programs. They learned faster, predicted more accurately, transformed every piece of captured void swarm technology into a weapon of survival. Each destroyed, drone became a source of intelligence. Each lost battle a chance to understand the enemy. The human fleet moved like a living organism. Ships that were once peaceful exploration vessels now looked like hunting predators. Manufacturing complexes worked without pause, turning every piece of available technology into potential weapons. Mining lasers, communication networks, waste, processing systems. Nothing was off limits. We're not just fighting, June told his team during a strategy meeting. We're solving a complex problem. Alien species watched in disbelief. The void swarm had consumed entire civilizations. Massive advanced races had fallen before its collective intelligence. But humans saw the conflict differently. Each challenge was a puzzle to be solved, each limitation an opportunity to innovate. Hana's AI systems began to predict void swarm movement patterns with impossible accuracy. Where the enemy once moved like a perfect synchronized organism, now it became fragmented. Individual drones lost connection, lost purpose. The quantum communication networks became weapons themselves. Each transmission was a potential strike, each data packet a way to disrupt the enemy's collective consciousness. The humans were fighting a war on an entirely different level. Star systems that were moments away from extinction found hope in human intervention. Converted mining platforms became planet-saving defensive systems. Experimental technologies that would have taken other species centuries to develop were created in weeks. June understood something fundamental. War wasn't about destroying the enemy. It was about understanding them, adapting faster than they could respond. Each battle became a learning experience, each lost ship a chance to improve their strategy. The void swarm's massive dark formations began to break apart. Their perfect collective movement became chaotic. Individual drones struggled to maintain connection to understand the new threat they faced. Alien military advisors studied human tactics with a mixture of fear and fascination. Humans moved differently. They didn't follow traditional military strategies. They transformed the entire concept of warfare. They're not just fighting, a Kreltak military analyst noted. They're evolving. Hana's quantum AI systems continued to improve. Each algorithm became more complex, more adaptive. The communication networks transformed into a living, breathing defense system. Information flowed like blood through a body, constantly changing, constantly adapting. The turning point came suddenly. What seemed like an unstoppable force began to fragment. The Void Swarm's collective intelligence, once its greatest strength, became its biggest weakness. Humans had found the perfect way to attack its core system. June watched the battle unfold with calm determination. Each movement, each strategy was a carefully calculated risk. Where other species saw chaos, he saw a complex mathematical equation, waiting to be solved. As months passed, the human approach became clear. They weren't just fighting the Void Swarm. They were transforming the entire understanding of warfare, of survival, of what it meant to face a seemingly unbeatable enemy. The galaxy watched, and everything was about to change. Space became a battlefield, of intelligence, of adaptation, of pure human determination. The Void Swarm had consumed 17 star systems. But now something was pushing back, and it was learning with every single moment. The final assault began like a symphony of technological brilliance. Captain June Park stood on the bridge, watching as human ships moved with impossible precision. Months of learning, adapting, and transforming had led to this moment. Lieutenant, Hana Kim's quantum AI systems had become something beyond simple computer programming. They were alive, thinking, predicting with a speed that made the Void Swarm look like a primitive organism. Each algorithm was a weapon, each data stream a potential attack. Massive converted mining platforms hung in space like silent guardians. What once extracted resources now prepared to save entire civilizations. The Galactic Council watched in stunned silence as human technology transformed the entire battlefield. "We're going to end this," June said simply. The Void Swarm's remaining forces looked like a dying organism. Months of human intervention had torn apart its collective intelligence. Individual drones moved without purpose, without connection. Their once perfect system was now broken beyond repair. Hana's final algorithm was a masterpiece of technological innovation. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a complete systemic attack. Each quantum pulse targeted the very core of the Void Swarm's consciousness. Information became destruction. Data became death. Alien representatives watched in complete shock. Humans had done what no other species could even imagine. They hadn't just fought the Void Swarm. They had completely understood and dismantled it. The attack came in waves of pure intelligence. Electromagnetic pulses designed from mining equipment. Communication networks transformed into precision strike systems. Every piece of technology became a potential weapon. "Target their central consciousness," June commanded. The galaxy held its breath. Hana's fingers moved across the quantum interface. Complex algorithms danced like living things. Each pulse of energy was calculated, precise, impossible to defend against. The Void Swarm's remaining systems began to collapse. One by one, drone ships went dark. Their perfect collective movement became random, then stopped completely. What had consumed 17 star systems was now being destroyed by human innovation. The Siloxian ambassador leaned forward, unable to believe what was happening. The Kreltak military advisors watched in stunned silence. Humans had done the impossible. In the final moments, the Void Swarm's central consciousness shattered. Not destroyed by brute force, but dismantled by pure intelligence. Each algorithm, each quantum pulse had found the perfect way to break the system. June looked at Hana. No words were needed. They had saved not just their civilization, but potentially the entire galaxy. Space became quiet. The massive dark formations of the Void Swarm disappeared like a bad dream. Entire star systems that were moments away from extinction now had a chance to survive. The Galactic Council transmission erupted with sound. Alien species cheered, celebrated, struggled to understand what had just happened. Humans had transformed the entire concept of warfare, of survival. "We adapt," June said simply. Hana's quantum systems continued to process the final moments of the conflict. Each piece of data became a lesson, each defeated drone a source of future knowledge. The human approach was not about destruction, it was about understanding. As the last fragments of the void swarm disappeared, something changed in the galaxy. Humans were no longer just another species. They were something more, a civilization that could face the impossible and find a way to survive. The battle was over, but the real transformation was just beginning. Space was quiet, but everyone knew humanity had changed everything.